Hi everybody, welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and podcast. We are back with another match preview. After the 2-0 defeat at the hands of Arsenal, we now turn our attention to the Leeds United away game. I'm Scott, I'm your host for this one, and this week I'm joined by Daryl and Iain. Iain, how are you in your lovely blue away kit?
Yeah, I'm good. I was a bit ill last week, so I missed all the canny chatter and whatnot. But yeah, good this week. And yes, got the away kit. I think it was the Southampton game I got it at. It was still on sale, so I just went for it and bought it.
Very, very nice. Daryl, how are you, mate? You haven't got a kit on, but you've got two lovely shirts in the background, which we always appreciate on this show.
Yes, still a little bit full of a blocked nose and a bit of a cough there, but I think we've worked out it might be something hay fever related, so I'm on the hay fever meds at the minute to try and sort it out. It's not really hindering us any other way apart from just making it sound like Barry White sometimes, but never mind. But yeah, absolutely fine. Looking forward to the game.
Excellent. Well, like I said, we are going to take a look towards the Leeds United away game, but before we do that, as always on this show, I have to let you know about our sponsor. The Gallowgateshots match preview is brought to you by Magpin. Magpin are the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamel pin badges of Newcastle players, legends, and retro kits. If you want more information, their website is magpinbadges.bigcartel.com. So then, Saturday, 12:30 kickoff, nice early one for the weekend, live on BT Sports. We make the trip down to Ellen Road, where we will play Leeds United. Daryl, Leeds are currently sitting in 19th, second bottom of the league, on 30 points, with 0 wins in the last 6 and only 1 draw. They're currently on 7 wins, 9 draws, 19 defeats, with a minus 25 goal difference. With all that into consideration, and given the performance that we had last week, maybe the result wasn't the best, but it was still a semi-decent performance. What are your confidence levels going into this game?
It's an interesting one, Scott. Now, naturally, confidence levels should actually be quite high or at least reasonable, considering the form that we're in compared to the form that Leeds are in. Especially at home, you have to consider that as well because they're leaking goals like nobody's business when it comes to playing Ellen Road at the minute. But, you know, we'll have to factor in a few things to go with that. You know, they've just brought in Sam Allardyce, who we all love and hate. Well, I say love, we all hate and loathe.
We love to hate.
We love to hate, yeah. Well, we all hate and loathe him anyway, but yeah, so he's come in and he's had a week to work with the players, so it's going to be a bit of a toss-up in the air to see what sort of Leeds that we come up against on Saturday. Yeah. But, you know, like I say, the form at home is pretty bad at the minute. They've shipping loads of goals, and I think, you know, we're capable. We've seen it already this season. We're capable of getting in there early and causing all sorts of mayhem, and maybe getting 2 or 3 up relatively quickly. It'll be a case of just being how we normally are in away games. I think it'll be a case of slowing the game down, pissing off the home fans. I can't swear, can I? Sorry, Chris. Annoying the home fans, and generally just making a nuisance of ourselves.
Yeah, Daryl's mentioned it, Iain. Obviously, they've got the new manager appointment in Sam Allardyce, which I think is the 3rd manager of the season. Bit of a shock that they got rid of the previous manager, and I wanted to say Jesse Marsh, but it wasn't even him, was it? It was the guy,
Javi Gracia.
Yeah, but obviously we're kind of going into this with a little bit of unexpectedness, and it's probably quite a hard preview to do given the fact that they've just changed manager. And yeah, they played Man City last week, but really there wasn't enough time for him to get any form of like style of play that he wants into those players. Are you expecting big changes from what we've seen from Leeds this season, or do you think it's not enough time and really 4 weeks for anyone is not enough to turn a football club around?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a very strange one. I think, this is only my sort of opinion for what it's worth, but it looks like they've potentially got him in to maybe just shore up the defence, stop leaking goals, maybe hope to sneak some points in and maybe a win. But I can't see, given that he's had, a week and a bit in charge, I can't see there being like a dramatic turnaround. Obviously, he had the game against City. You cannot really use that as a yardstick, even if he had 3 months in charge, because City are just City. So it's a difficult one. A lot of the pundits were saying that they did really well. Obviously, the scoreline was very close, but throughout the game, I thought, particularly the first half, they got absolutely battered. It was literally like an attack versus defense training drill. That being said,
if Erling Haaland had his shooting boots on, it would have been a long 12
he
because he should have scored about 50 goals.
Yeah, could have had about 3 or 4 in the first half. That being said, I think with it being his first home game, I think they might have a little bit of belief that might spur the crowd up. And Ellen Road's one of those classic grounds. Leeds, to be honest, to me, are a classic Premier League team. I always refer back to like when I used to collect sticker books and things like that, and they were in it. So their fans will be right up for it. They'll make it difficult, but I feel it might be a similar atmosphere to Everton. And I think if you can get through first 15, 20 minutes without conceding, even going ahead, I think that shuts them up. And as long as you're clever enough not to give away anything silly, it should be, on paper, an easy 3 points.
Yeah, obviously we'll touch on Leeds' style of play, Daryl. Obviously this could be completely different if Big Sam's implemented a new philosophy of football, but I don't think, I think Big Sam hoofball is probably what we'll be expecting. But going off the previous season, the previous games this season, they like to play wide. They do like to attack that left-hand side more than anything. They are in defence very aggressive, and they like to play the offside trap. Obviously, we've got a fair bit of pace up front. Do you think they're still going to probably want to play that offside trap against us, or do you think they're going to have to be a bit more conservative there, just because we've got the players to not only make the runs, but the players to find the passes as well?
I think this is where we have to consider the Big Sam effect here and what he's done this week. And we can, like you say, we can only surmise and guess what he might have done. But I reckon he might have gone with a bit more of a conservative approach to how he wants the team to play. If we go in this thinking that it's still Javi Gracia and that they still want to play the high line and play this offside trap, I think we could quite easily, we do have the talent to break an offside trap and we have that pace up front. So I think Sam will probably set it up where, and we have to go back as far as when he was with us back in 2007. I think it'll be a case of Sam will set it up where they sit deep and they defend, and then if they get the opportunity to get forward and break on us, then they will. I think it could be very much like the first half against Man City on Saturday gone there, where it could be, as long as our intensity matches up to where it should be and the levels are right, then we really will have them penned back and cause them a lot of problems. That up front, they're pretty blunt, really. I mean, you've got Paddy Bamford there, but he hasn't scored for a little while, and the other forward players really aren't pulling their weight in terms of getting the goals. I think the best one that they have isn't. He might even be a doubt. I'm not sure, but it's Willie Gnonto. He seems to be the one that's been grabbing a load of goals recently. And I think there's how do you pronounce it? It's Silencio Somerville. I think he's a bit of a goal threat as well. But again, like I say, in terms of goals that they're scoring, they're not really getting the opportunity. And the other thing I would add into that as well is, which is something that goes against what you would expect from a Sam Allardyce team, is the physicality. You've mentioned it there with the defence being quite physical, and I can see that in the defence because of the kind of players that they've got in there. But as soon as you move up the pitch and you look at the midfield and then you look at the front line, there's not really like any burly lads in there that would fit the Sam Allardyce mould, who can get hold of the ball and keep the hold of it and use their strength to hold other people off. So it'll be really interesting to see how we approach this.
Yeah, it will be. They've got a few injuries, Ian. Liam Cooper, who I think is a recent injury, as well as is it Sinistera, who's out, who's I think either their second top or one of their top goal scorers, but not with many goals. I think it's only 5 he's got. Obviously, Stuart Dallas, I think, has been off for quite a while, and Tyler Adams as well. Obviously, there's not many names on that list that you would think would be regular starters. Maybe Sinistera because of the goals, but like Dallas, maybe it's last season, maybe it's the season before, but I don't think he's been featuring much this season. So they you could say in a way they're probably going into this with a fairly strong squad, for Leeds United. Are there any players that Leeds have that you've seen this season that you think, okay, they could cause her a bit of trouble?
If I'm honest, and again, this is no disrespect to Leeds, but this is just because of the position that they're in, and we don't really have to pay attention to that, given where we are. If it had been sort of this time 18 months ago, I would have been able to list off he's a threat, because I would have been paying attention. But as I've said previously, it's the benefits of not having to be in a relegation battle. But I think the one player that stands out when I do watch him is Jack Harrison. You didn't just say he was injured, did you? No, that's fine.
No, he's not.
Yeah, so I think he's probably the one with sort of real quality. I'm sure he possibly plays on the left-hand side. And he's popped up with a few goals. I think we were potentially, or there was rumours we were interested in him. We've been interested in every man and his dog since the takeover. So I think he's the one that you would probably need to watch out for. Like Daryl was saying, it's going to be hard to see what kind of game plan would be implemented. Famously, Big Sam's a hoof the ball long, very similar to Burnley. But I think what might spur Leeds on is the fact that Forest and Everton have just picked up 3 massive points, particularly Everton going to Brighton and shipping 5 past them. It might give them a little bit of sort of confidence and think, well, they've just done that to Brighton. Newcastle are in a similar position. There's nothing saying we could do it. But again, without being disrespectful, you cannot really see anyone in that Leeds squad that has a lot of quality. Given how, again, although we're not keeping clean sheets, we're still quite defensively sound. So you would expect, like I say, to not really have any problems caused. But Jack Harrison probably is the one to look out for me.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because we are going into this a little bit unknown. Like mentioned, we don't know how they're going to line up. We don't know, what Big Sam's going to implement. But again, I don't think there's been enough time. I think you'll probably see that next week, or I think they might have a midweek game, so it'll be the next couple of games where they try and scrape those points that they need. Daryl, will turn our attentions to Newcastle now. Obviously, we'll talk about injuries first. I think Sean Longstaff's probably the only one who's still a bit of a doubt. I think Mr. Hope put a tweet out late last night. I only saw it this morning when I woke up that that Longstaff's scan showing no real damage, but he won't be ready for Saturday. So that's good news and bad news. Obviously, we did appear to miss him against Arsenal, but this is a different game, a different team. Do you think we're going to be okay in the centre midfield without Sean Longstaff?
I think it's shown just how much. It's one of these weird things, because we have missed him, and it's sort of one of these things where when he's not in the team, he suddenly becomes a better player. And I do worry when he's not in there myself. There seems to be, Eddie pointed it out in reaction to Sunday's game that there was a little bit of a lack of balance in the midfield, and I think depending on who he's got available to him. I don't know if he would risk starting Elliot Anderson in there and putting Joe Willock back out on the left with the hybrid thing that he has with Joe Linton there. But it's going to be one of the things. I even wonder if you may even see a system change, and he may sit Bruno and Joe Linton together deep in midfield and then play a 3 behind a single striker. We just don't know. But fortunately, everybody else is raring to go.
Yeah, it seems that way, Ian. Obviously, we saw Alan St-Maximin come off the bench against Arsenal, Anthony Gordon coming off the bench as well. Both looked really lively. Both seemed to change our game a little bit and offer a little bit more than what we were. I'm not saying we were playing badly, but what we were offering against Arsenal. Would you make any changes to the front 3? Would you start Wilson and Isak together? That seems to be the hot topic of kind of this last couple of months, really. What would you do?
It's a difficult one. I think again, I don't think you can use Arsenal as a good sort of barometer. There's another measuring device as well as the yardstick. A good barometer to see how they link up. Obviously, when they've sort of one started, one's come off the bench, they've linked up very, very well, potentially against tired legs. Arsenal was a very difficult game to judge how well they do from a sort of starting together. I think he's probably going to make a change, and I think it'll be one or the other that starts. I don't think he'll play them both together. And like you said, we've got We've got Miggy, who come off the bench. Elliot Anderson as well. I thought he did quite well when he came off the bench. And then St. Maximum obviously coming back in, and Gordon. For me, I think you'll possibly start Gordon on the left and maybe Isak up front, although there's an argument to putting Saint straight back in. We do have the options, which is nice, but also at the same time will cause a headache. And say it every match preview. I'm glad I'm not Eddie Howe, but
I was waiting for it.
It comes every time.
For me, I probably would go one or the other with Wilson and Isak. That being said, Eddie Howe might look at it, well, it's a much better game to try and judge that. But I think he's even said himself that in the right moment, that's when he'll use them both together. And against Leeds, you're expecting it to probably win. I don't think you'd start them together.
It's interesting you mentioned about Gordon and you think he'd possibly start Daryl. Is this one of those games where, no disrespect to Leeds, but this is probably a perfect game for Anthony Gordon to come into and make a mark on a game where he hasn't necessarily done that when starting in previous fixtures?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get some minutes into his legs and get him in against a team where he should find some sort of joy playing against Leeds. He's got that pace and that skill to beat a man. Certainly in terms of Leeds defence as well, he should be able to get past their fullbacks. I agree with Ian. I think it'll be one of Isak and Wilson. I don't think he'll play them both. I don't know if he was bound to, I don't know if he was pressured into playing them simply because of the personnel that was available to him against Arsenal, but he's always been adamant from the start that it's when the circumstances allow, he will happily play the pair of them together.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it wasn't necessary. I think the circumstances sort of forced his hand to play them both against Arsenal, because it was always going to be a risk if he'd have brought Alan St. Maximin straight in from the start and then made the change later on. So it was always going to be that way around. But yeah, I think he'll probably start. Maybe I actually think he might start Wilson and bring Isak off the bench later on, just simply so that he's got Wilson's physicality to handle the Leeds centre halves. And I think it could well be. I think Miggy's still trying to find some rhythm after his injury, so I think it'll probably be Murphy on the right. But yeah, I think Gordon on the left. It's a tough one, because if he plays Gordon on the left, you can put Willock in with the three. But it's all about the balance of the team, and if he wants to go with these tried and tested system, that's probably the best way for it to work. But if he wants to then switch the system so he can make the most of Bruno and Joe Linton together in the middle of the park, then you could see it, like I said earlier, it could see a three behind Wilson, and it could be that perhaps a Gordon, a St. Maximin, and a Murphy.
Yeah, it's lots of options, which is not a position we've been in that often this season.
A nice position to be.
And it's probably only going to get worse when it comes to these options when, as the seasons go on throughout this new chapter in Newcastle United. We'll come to, before we come to predictions, Daryl, I just want to ask you one more thing. Ian mentioned about Leeds potentially sitting deep. And obviously we've come across teams in the past this season where that's happened, and we found it really hard to break them down. Are you concerned at all that if that happens, we'll struggle? Or do you think we've passed that and we're now scoring, obviously not against Arsenal, but before that, we've pretty much been scoring for fun?
Yeah, I mean, it is one of our little weaknesses to struggle to break a team down that likes to sit in front of us and not come at us, if for want of a better phrase. It'll be down to us to be absolutely on our game in terms of the press and winning the ball high up the pitch. And if we can turn over possession in their third, then I think we'll stand every chance of breaking those lines and being able to create chances for whoever's starting up front, be it Wilson, Isak, or whoever. But, we saw a little bit of a dip in form for Bruno last week against Arsenal, particularly in the second half. So it'll be interesting to see if he's really I expect he probably has put the work in on the training pitch this week, but we know he's carrying that injury, and we've seen that teams are now targeting that as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But yeah, I mean, we do sort of have the intelligence to break these teams down, but it just relies on how we press. Press is important.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and let's hope we can press as a team and keep that intensity up for the majority of this game. Like I said before, that we'll now come to our predictions. Ian, I'll come to you first, mate. What's your prediction for this week?
I cannot say we're keeping a clean sheet, which is annoying because we went through a phase where we kept clean sheets for fun. There's just something I don't know whether it's just sort of mental energy is starting because we're at the tail end of the season is starting to drop, and there's finer little details that are allowing teams to get in. That being said, I think we'll manage the first 15-20 minutes as we did against Everton, and I think we'll maybe get a couple of goals, and then see them off. So I'm going to go 3-1.
Nice, yeah. Daryl,
I absolutely agree with Ian in what he said there, and I would add to that. I think that Leeds will, you mentioned it earlier on, Scott, that how much Leeds like to attack down the wings, and they have a lot of pace in those areas as well. So I do think that they will be able to get a goal against us at some point during the game. But I also think we'll have far too much for them, and we'll be able to outscore them anyway. And I was going to go with a 3-1 as well.
Nice. Well, I was thinking 3-1, but it seems you two have taken that. I'll change my prediction. Just for the sake of it. No, I think it might be a bit high scoring. After watching against Man City, there were so many chances that Man City had. I think they've also just been beaten pretty badly from Liverpool as well. I think it was 6-1.
And then 5-1 against Palace as well.
Yeah, so they are shipping goals. So I cannot see us not scoring. But like you two, I can also see them nicking one. I'm going to go for a 5-1. I think we're going to react to that Arsenal game, and I think we're going to put in a performance, and I think you're going to see the players react because we've got Brighton on Thursday next week. That's a short turnaround. That's a hard game. I think the players are going to want to get this Champions League position done and dusted, or as much as we can by then. And what better way than going out with a bang against Leeds? And I'll stick by it. I'm going to say 5-1. Let's even name some scorers. I think we might see a hat trick from Isak. So there you go.
That would be lovely.
Because I think Isak will start. I think Isak will start, and I think Wilson will come in off the bench, and then Wilson will start the Brighton game, where maybe we need a bit more physicality up front with their defenders. But that is for next week's match preview. Does anybody want to add anything before we wrap this one up?
Just when you were on about there, that obviously there's the lads will want to get Champions League football. I think obviously we're coming off the back of a loss. You've seen what happened after we got beat off Villa. We then turned around. I think I can't remember what it was, but we went on a run of like 4 or 5 straight wins after another loss. So they've definitely in it. They've definitely got it in them to not make a habit of losing. We've lost 5 games all season. So, and given that there's only 4 games left. Yeah. 4 games. I think they'll want to get into a rhythm just to, like you say, to seal that Champions League spot. So, I've got very, very high hopes for a win. I think potentially going the rest of the season unbeaten.
Nice. Yeah, obviously, I do realise that we can't seal Champions League position with a win over Leeds. We do need more points than that.
I was looking.
Recording, but, I'm just saying,
I was looking.
Want to cement, get the cement wet a bit.
I think even if they get a point, I think the lowest then they can finish is 6th, which guarantees you Europa League. Because I think we need 6th, arguably 7. But I think the lads were saying as well on all the smiling faces on Monday that the goal difference is technically an extra point, which is in the group chat what I've been banging on about. And bearing in mind, all of this is dependent on Liverpool winning every game. And I still think there's a potential they might lose a little bit of momentum. So
I think Villa's a tough game for Liverpool.
I think it is, yeah. I think that'll be the one that has them slip up. So, like I say,
and I also think if you look at Brighton's run up, Arsenal, us, Man City.
Yeah, that's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah. And I think Brighton as well. Brighton till the end of the season are playing 2 games a week, which is obviously, but yeah, I think, like I say, given that, he got 4 games left. I cannot see we're dropping out of the Champions League spots.
The caveat that I would put on that, and I don't necessarily mean it in terms of how we do and it affecting us as much, but you just have to look at some of the recent games over the bank holiday there. There's so many goals going in, and there's so many shock results as well. I mean, I wouldn't have expected Everton to put 5 past Brighton, and the game Forest won against Southampton, that's 7 goals in that one, and Fulham battering Leicester 5-2. It's ridiculous how many goals are going in at the minute. So I think there's more twists and turns to come, but not necessarily to detriment us. I think we have been so consistent this season in terms of how we manage our games that we simply wouldn't allow that sort of thing to happen unless it was against somebody the likes of a Man City or an Arsenal or even, God forbid, I know it's happened twice, but Liverpool as well. They're the only 3 teams that have really caused us any major problem. I would probably put Brentford in that bracket down at their place as well. But, we haven't seen this problem come our way or come to our door a lot this season, and it's affecting a lot of the other teams now. And something I mentioned earlier in the season is burnout. And I think a lot of the teams who have players who were in the World Cup are now starting to suffer a little bit of the burnout, and they're starting to wane. So it'll be interesting to see, this is the last big push for everybody now as you go into your last 3 or 4 games of the season, or in Brighton's case, 20 odd or whatever it is they've got left to play. But, this is really going to be testing a lot of those players now, and some of them really will be emptying the tank as well.
Yeah, it's going to be fun and games, I think, for the remainder. It's only a week and a half left, but there's so many games to play.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Is it a week and a half or is it 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
About 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, we will be here throughout the next 2 weeks with match previews, with Always Smiling Faces podcasts, with Canny Chatter, with Extra Time, with match reactions, and whatever else we record.
The Smelly Fish Challenge.
Smelly Fish Challenge is probably coming in the summer. That's
I think there's the Battle of the Kits as well that needs to be sorted out after we
There's so much coming your way. So, if you want to see all this and you want to be notified and you want to just get our numbers up when it comes to subscribers, just scroll down from this video and hit the little subscribe button. We just surpassed 10,000 last week, and we're already close to 10,100. So the push to 11,000 is on, boys. We are close. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up button. That will get this video into the YouTube feeds of other Newcastle United fans as well as some Leeds United fans as well. And Leeds fans, if you're watching, best of luck for the rest of the season just after this game. Always like to see Leeds United in the Premier League, and I don't want to see us go down. I'd rather, there's a couple of other teams down there that I'd like to see before
Southern ones.
Yeah, Southern ones. I like the closer way.
Southern ones and some Western ones from Leeds as well. There is a Western team from Leeds that I wouldn't mind to see go down. But anyway, we'll not.
Western team. I'm trying to figure it out.
Blue.
I'm talking about Everton.
Blue.
I'm talking about
Everton. Right. Wait,
they're kind of West from Leeds.
I was thinking of like West Yorkshire. I'm like,
just along the M62.
Keep going over the pen.
I'm usually good at geography as well.
But yeah, if you want to know when these new videos go live, you can also hit the little notification bell, and that will give you a little pop-up on your device of choice when those videos go live. And if you want to be extra nice and go one step further, we do have a membership program. It's $2.99 a month. That will get you early access to all of the pre-recorded videos, as well as access to the Telegram group. And if you're listening on the audio only, and you're on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever podcast service you choose to listen to us on, please give us a 5-star rating. And if you want to write a little review, do that as well, because we're really pushing the audio these days and it really helps us. But that is it for this one. We go into this Leeds game a little bit bruised off the Arsenal game, but I think we can pick ourselves up, dust ourselves down, and we can get ourselves another victory on that road to European Champions League football. Let's see. Let's hope we can do it. We'll find out on Saturday. We will see you in the next one. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.